Day 10 of the Trump trial's a wrap, and the former president's out of that freezing cold icebox doing one of his classic retail politics pit stops, delivering pizza to cops and firefighters. After today, 45 railing against the gag order, saying the judge should take the muzzle off.
I should be out campaigning right now, and I want to be out campaigning like I was yesterday. We finally had a break. I'm not allowed to testify. I'm under a gag order, I guess, right? I can't even testify on that. No, we're going to be appealing the gag order. There's never been any abuse like this before. This conflicted judge ought to get out of this case. He should not be having this case. He gives us nothing. It's such a rigged court.
Trump's team pointing out how the ex-president can't respond to the showboating antics of Michael Cohen. The convicted felon gets to cash in with dopey TikToks about the trial. Cohen gets away with taunting Trump on Twitter, calling his old boss vulgar names and posting images of Trump in an orange jumpsuit. Mike Cohen's also been shopping around for a TV show. It's called The Fixer, inspired by Trump's The Apprentice. All right, Dana, little pit stop, no comments after. Effective.
I mean, comments we always like. We would love to take them and love to hear from him. But because, if he's in a courtroom all day, he can't. When he was campaigning on Wednesday, he was a happy warrior. He spoke for over an hour at each event. And I just think it's interesting as a political observer to watch how these two campaigns are going forward. I mean, he's basically being asked to run the New York Marathon with 20-pound weights on his ankles, and he's actually able to do it. I don't think that Michael Cohen should be able to do that. I don't know how to stop it. I don't get it, but it does seem extraordinarily unfair. But I think these are the 5 things that this election is going to turn on. We've mentioned it already. Abortion, it's an issue. We know it is. Immigration, we know that's the issue. The economy is the #1 issue. Crime is an issue for a lot of people, and I would add this campus stuff and law and order. And the last thing I would say is geopolitics. And on every single issue, President Biden is upside down.
Isn't it fun to watch Trump deliver pizza?
It certainly is. It reminds me of those movies I made in the 80s. I don't normally call back the things that I've said in the past. You know that. I'm a very humble person.
Really
I'm full of humility. Yeah. But didn't I predict that lawfare would shape and frame a better version of Trump?
Oh, yeah.
Because it caused him to focus. And it put him in a cage. So he's like a professional boxer that's, what's it called? Abstinent? I don't know what that means. Abstinence until the fight. Then he's like, rah! And so it's like, he's one of those guys that the more you put him in a box, the more contained energy is focus. And then all of a sudden, dare I say, Bragg and company have made Trump a more appealing, better version. It's Trump 2.0. I say more trials. More trials. Because
I'm not sure he agrees with that.
No, but do you notice how loose he is?
Yeah. He's
on those campaign things stops yesterday, he was just like, hey, he's like, it wasn't even, he was a happy warrior. Mm-hmm. Which is, it's just an interesting thing to see.
It's the abstinence, isn't it, Janine?
Yeah, you know what? I agree with you. I really do. He's playing their game, and he's winning it. What he's doing is he is so focused when he comes out of court. He's lucid. He's clear. You don't worry. You don't get anxiety. He's going to stumble. He talks about the college campuses. He talks about inflation. He talks about the border. He's got more eyeballs on him for that 30, 45 seconds than Joe Biden does. And the truth is that he's winning in spite of the fact that they're locking him down. So now they add 4 more counts to the gag order. Now, remember, they took him off Twitter. They took him off Facebook. MSNBC won't run anything that he does. They won't take his rallies. And then he comes out of court and they say, what do you think of David Pecker? And he said, he's a nice guy. They want to gag him on that. I mean, you can't even say someone's a nice guy. It's ridiculous.
All right, Harold. I mean, maybe he's like Greg said, he's in prison shape. Yeah, he's serving some time, but he comes out ripped.
Prison shape.
That's what everybody aspires to. I give Greg is right about it. He did share that early on in this process. I'd say 2 things. First, if you're Trump and if I'm running that campaign, the only thing I would want him saying about Michael Cohen or any witness in that case is when he comes out to we're winning this case. But let me tell you what we've got to do and lay out because you've got to figure out two classes of voters you've got to win and 2 groups of voters. I don't mean anything by class, but 2 groups of voters. First, those that voted for Haley. Will they come back to the Republican Party in the fall? And 2, independent voters in Michigan, Wisconsin, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia. That's what I would be focused on. If you're Biden, this is an opportunity to issue the toughest executive order you can on the border, to talk about an economic plan. These are the things I would be doing, be advising on either side. Trump is getting there. I think the optics of going to the firehouse is better. Before he goes into court, when he's basically saying everybody's unfair against him, it's hard if you're an American who's struggling to week by week, month by month, to hear a billionaire complain that he's innocent and that it's bad that he's in court. Talk about America. And if you're Biden, talk about the things you're going to do as well. Otherwise, I think you'll be at a disadvantage come late fall.
I have a better idea.
Yes, sir.
You bring pizzas to the jury.
That's called jury.
Oh, that's
interview,
tampering?
yes.
Scratch that. Coming up,
good idea.
We all know real men major in history, not art. Joe Biden's bailing out the student debt of useless art degree major. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.